If you are having a hard time organizing or decluttering, today I have some unconventional tips that maybe you haven't tried yet. Let's jump right in. My first unconventional hack is to tackle it by category rather than by room. I like this one because if you are decluttering, seeing all of your items together will make it easier to say goodbye to some. Like in the Marie Kondo method, the first step is to put all your stuff together in one big pile so you can really see how much it is. I felt this when I moved this summer. I always knew that I was really good at fitting 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag, or closet in this case. But seeing all of my possessions and all of the boxes, I honestly felt a little disgusted with myself. And I wish I had gotten rid of more early in the process. And it wasn't like I didn't know I had those things. It just didn't really register until I saw them all out. Also, if your goal is more about reorganizing rather than decluttering, again, tackling it by category makes perfect sense. Now, you might be thinking you already kind of have all of each category is in one room. You don't have categories spread out throughout rooms. And I pretty much do too, but there are some exceptions. Like I have some clothes, of course, in my bedroom closet, but I also have some in the entryway. I have books both here in the office and in the living room. Electronics are everywhere. Kids' toys are everywhere. So there are still a couple big categories that I could tackle this by category method rather than the by room method. Next, we have the one-touch rule. Perhaps you have an organization system that seems really nice when you set it up, but it takes too many steps to maintain it, and so the system is slowly falling apart. The one-touch rule can be a really good guiding principle. I personally use a more modern version, something like touch as few times as possible. So for example, a strict interpretation of the one-touch rule would mean paying your bills as soon as they arrive. What I do is I have an urgent mail folder, and all bills go to there, and twice a month I empty out the folder and pay everything. And so basically it's 2 touches, and I feel pretty good about that. Especially if I compare it to what I did when I was younger, which was to have a mail pile by the door. And that pile was always there, it just grew and shrank. And the same pile held urgent things like bills, as well as less urgent things like coupons, or just miscellaneous papers that needed to be dealt with. And I hated that pile. It actually caused me a bit of stress. And it's the opposite of the one-touch rule, because every time I had to go into it and look, oh, are there any bills that I forgot to pay? I'm touching every single paper in there every time I go through it. Okay, number 3 is to use vertical storage. Now, I did just make a video where I warned about adding too much storage and making your space feel claustrophobic, and I still stand by that. So don't just keep adding storage. But I still love lots of storage, who doesn't? So there might be some places that you haven't considered adding storage. For example, if you have some shelves that go high but not quite all the way to the ceiling, you can add some nice looking boxes on top of them and get that extra bit of storage, and it's not going to look any more cluttered than it did before. If you have some cabinet space that's a little too deep, a little too low, just hard to really utilize it well, you can add organizers to those spaces. For example, my old apartment in Rome, in the cabinet under the sink, I had a whole drawer unit that I just put in there. Papers are a really big culprit. They can just spread out and cover all of your horizontal spaces so quickly. So if you can find a way, to keep them vertical and to not forget about ones you shouldn't forget about, that can be a really big win for reclaiming some space. I also love any storage that doubles as a display for cherished possessions. So for example, they make those little narrow photo shelves that you can put along walls. Having one of those on the hallway, for photos, but for anything that you really just want to display, can be a great use of using that vertical hallway space. The next unconventional tip is to organize your digital life. I think this is an important one because I would bet most of us would be more devastated to lose our digital files than we would any physical possession. I made a video recently about different software tools I use to run my life, and one of them is Google Drive. So hit subscribe so you can find my channel again later and watch that video if you'd like. In that video, I talk about how I keep all my digital files in one file system that has followed me from year to year and from computer to computer. Okay, number 5 is maybe not so unconventional if you've watched a lot of my other videos, but it is to build systems and rituals around dealing with all of the things, all of the possessions that come into our lives and need to be dealt with. In particular, in a way that stops them from piling up and becoming an overwhelming and stress-causing presence in our home. Okay, so a couple of mine. I have an important to-do file here in my filing cabinet, and so those papers don't sit on my desk. I have space over my closet for like half dirty clothes so that those don't just end up piled up on a chair. And we have a file organizer for like family papers in the kitchen area so that those papers do not end up on the kitchen counters or table. And there you have it, my 5 unconventional methods for organizing or decluttering your life. I hope some are new for you and you can give them a try. If you do, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. I'll put up on the screen some more of my home organization videos. I consider myself more of a productivity person, but those are some of my best performing videos, so I think they must be good. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Hug, and I'll see you over in those other videos.